Good evening, everyone. Here's the PM update for May 11th. Sanctions are now forcing Russia to use computer chips from dishwashers and refrigerators and other appliances in some of their military equipment. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo said on Wednesday, "We have reports from Ukrainians that when they find Russian military equipment on the ground, it's filled with semiconductors that they took out of dishwashers, refrigerators, and other appliances." Belarus's parliament approved a bill on May 4th to amend the country's criminal code, which is introducing capital punishment for acts of attempted terrorism. Previously, the death penalty was assigned for those that committed terrorist acts that resulted in casualties. Belarus State Security Committee has a long list of alleged terrorists, which include the quote-unquote guerrillas that disrupted the country's national railway during the initial stages of the war in Ukraine. British Defense Secretary Ben Wallace, speaking on China, said that China is increasingly embarrassed by Russia's war in Ukraine. The British Defense Secretary said he thinks that the Chinese view instability as bad for business, and probably China is rather be embarrassed by the behavior of Putin. He's a rather inconvenient friend, and you don't see the full-throated support that you would have originally expected. Russia's relationship with China is largely competitive as the two grapple for influence everywhere from the Arctic to Central Asia and especially in Central Africa. Ben Wallace said that Russia is really worried about China dominating the high north and could be in a weaker position after the war. The Kremlin appears to be taking troops from its forward positions in Syria and other overseas bases such as Georgia, Libya, and Mali to cover its losses in Ukraine. On a separate note, when it comes to Russian equipment, from jets to helicopters to advanced battle tanks, those have been largely massacred in the fighting so far. You could have implications for China, which has based its fighter jets and some of its surface-to-air missiles on Russian designs. And some of the Russian designs have a failure rate of up to 60%. That's astronomical. While Ben Wallace said Ukraine's defeat of top-level military equipment such as the Sukhoi fighter jets and the modern T-90 tanks with simple handheld Western-made weapons is leading Russian military customers to think twice about buying more Russian equipment, which will eventually cause a hit to Russia's economy. Information about the location and movements of Russian forces is flowing to Ukraine in real time, to include satellite imagery and reporting gleaned from sensitive U.S. sources, according to the U.S. and Ukrainian officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe the cooperation. The intelligence is very good. It tells us where the Russians are so that we can hit them, one Ukrainian official said. Now, can you imagine if we had this level of intelligence, ramped it up to full scale for the U.S. and then tied it to Western militaries? The effect would be devastating for Russia. And I think China recognizes that as well, and which is why they continue to kind of at least put on pause their relationship with Russia, if not slowly back away from Russia as a partner. Lithuanian foreign minister has said that the country seeks permanent U.S. troop presence as the biggest deterrent to Russia in stopping Moscow's warmongering in his country, in Lithuania. They want them to record as a portion of the end of Russian Vladimir Putin's power and his whole system by countering that with U.S. troops in Lithuania. Now, we rotate troops in Lithuania, Latvia, not on a permanent basis, but as a part of training exercises. So there's generally a U.S. presence there, even if just a small one. But like Poland and other countries, they are requesting additional U.S. forces to be stationed in their countries. The U.S. military acts as a pretty solid insurance policy to prevent an attack, because the U.S. would see that as an attack on their own people and likely would respond with the full might of the U.S. military. These nations in the Baltics and in Eastern Europe recognize that. The Czech president has granted permission to 103 Czech citizens to join the Ukrainian armed forces. They still need the prime minister's approval to fight in Ukraine, but this is one of the very first times that the Czech government has allowed private citizens to go and fight in other wars. It is against the Czech law to do so. It does require permission from the highest levels of the Czech government. The UK has signed a bilateral security agreement with Sweden and Finland that says should either country suffer a disaster or an attack, The United Kingdom and Finland and Sweden will, upon request from the affected country, assist each other in a variety of ways, which may include military means. This will likely remain in effect until they join NATO. If you remember, the U.S. has provided security assurances, and other countries have come on board as well to help defend Finland and Sweden in their transitionary period from application to join NATO. It's about a year-long process to actually being accepted into NATO. So just some security coverages while that process takes place. And that is it for the news this evening. Have a good evening.